Hey friends, it is Jamie. I am here to talk about the dark moon in Leo that's happening tomorrow, which is also the total solar eclipse. We will not be seeing it where I am in the south, but some of you in Alaska and like the top half of the United States, maybe to the Midwest, will be getting a partial viewing of the solar eclipse, but down south we got nothing. So what I would like to do for this video is I'm going to pull a few cards on this eclipse, and then I'm going to switch over to the astrological wheel and read the energies from that. So for the cards, I'm going to be using the Witchy Cat cards because we're still in Leo season. So I'm going to pull three cards for those energies. We are working with wild magic because we're coming into eclipse season. And then um, I'll pull up the astrological wheel for this. So, eclipse season is one of my favorite seasons. Oops, things are getting wild over here. Eclipse season is one of my favorite seasons because the energy is unexpected, it is strong, it is helpful. Solar eclipses illuminate what we need to see in order to make these changes. If you can think about working with positive masculine energy, if we see the sun as that masculine, if we see the sun as that healthy ego moving us forward, but definitely Leo is the heart space. Leo comes from the heart. That's why we say the heart of a lion. Um, and so we want to use that inspiration, the vision, right? Fire signs are visionaries. We want to get the vision, that bigger picture. We want Leos to be interesting. We want Leos to be, or Leos, but fire signs, but Leos are fixed fire, right? So they are that fixed visionary, that idea of coming from love, that idea of understanding all is good, right? All is equal in a sense. We can all move together. Oh, these cards are spitting fire. All right, one more, please. All right, let's go. For this dark moon of Leo in this total solar eclipse for us here. What are these energies that we're working with? Let's see, that's that one. Um, Fixed fire. Wands, baby. That's fixed fire. Six of Pentacles. So at the bottom of the deck, we have the Six of Pentacles, and this is about things coming back into balance. Um, the Six of Pentacles is known as the charity card. It's about giving and receiving. So I definitely feel like this is a good sign, getting things back into balance, how we give and how we receive. And keeping that in mind, especially now, I know a lot of this is the beginning of the school year for people. Um, we're going to be signing up for whatever you guys sign up for, make sure you come and you're in that in the generosity, but it has to be giving and receiving. It's okay. Pentacles, it's earth. We want to have boundaries. I can give this much time to this. I have to have this much time for myself. So it's okay working in that new energy of giving and receiving, bringing things back into balance. So the cards we pulled for this dark moon of Leo slash total solar eclipse are very interesting. And we pulled two major arcana, which I think is a great sign. So two out of three, definitely to me signaling that as a collective, we are at a crossroads. So the first card we pulled was the moon. So beautiful. The second card we pulled is the Fool, the zero card, the very first card of the major arcana. And the third card we pulled is the Three of Wands. And wands do represent fire in the tarot. So I think that's also a beautiful sign. And also remember at the bottom of the deck, we got this idea of coming back into balance, getting some new sense of stability. So coming in with the Moon card, of course, that is that. So the way that we talk about things now, but the way we talk about things is seeing the sun as that masculine energy and then the moon as this feminine energy. And when they have a dark moon, it is when they're together. So it is when they are conjunct. So the fact that the moon came out and what she represents is this idea of intuition, this idea of cycles, this idea of the idea of like the moon card can be like being nervous of the unknown, but I don't ever see it as that. But I just see it as being working with your intuition, working with cycles, um, understanding that it is important to go with what you can't see, but what you can feel. And the fact that this is paired with the Fool card, right, is to me this new cycle of this, starting this new journey. Um, as a collective, and again, too, I would even say, because I do talk about this, so of course I'm going to see it balanced in this way, but this idea of getting back into balance with that masculine, feminine energy about um, how we move and receive, moving, getting more back into that cycle of being intuitive, being okay with where you are in life. That's another thing with the cycles, like starting this new place for where you are right now in life. This is where I am. This is what I'm experiencing. This is where I want to go. Instead of bringing all the baggage with you from, I would say, quote unquote, past lives. But what I mean is like the baggage from last year, the year before, second grade. Okay, all that stuff. This is signaling we're in a new cycle. Like, let's start here. Let's start now. Let's be focused on where we are and where we want to go. And if this could be your new beginning, what would it be? Right? How are you going to start over? What are you not bringing with you? What in this new cycle do you want to bring with you? It can be a lot lighter, right? Your suitcase can be a lot lighter than what it's been in the past. So working with this, because remember, Leo, fixed fire is the visionary. It is the inspiration. It is where you want to go. It is what you desire, right, in a positive way. And so working from right that energy right now, where do you want to go? Because the Three of Wands is the movement. The Three of Wands says your mind is already made up. The Three of Wands says you do know where you want to go. You do know what you want to experience. Um, and you do know how to get there, right? The cat is getting ready to take those boats, right? And what's interesting too, when you work with this idea of wands and um water, water is how you feel, water is emotions, and you can see that these are sailboats, for lack of a better word, but using air, right, to get you there. And the opposite sign of Leo is Aquarius, which is fixed air. And so this is a really powerful time to tell us, we really need to see where it is that we want to do and where we want to go and what we want to experience and start in that cycle and not think that we can't do that because of the past or we've got to fix fix all these things that have been in the sense that this is the time that we need to start right now. If things aren't um working and they are if things aren't working, okay, well, what do we need to do right now in order to make them work at this time? What is the experience that you have? Um, what is the cycle that you're in? What is this new way of seeing what it is that you want to do? What is this new way of getting to where you want to go? Remember that Fool card is the very beginning, right? You can't bring the old way when you're working with the Fool. The Fool is right now. The Fool is the new adventure. The Fool is the new thought. The Fool is that um, almost that blissful ignorance. It's going to work out because the idea is where the energy flows, where the attention goes, energy flows. So It is going, that's why she's stepping off the cliff, right? Because she trusts. And it doesn't matter if she hits the ground, right? Because when she hits the ground, she's going to pick herself back up and keep walking because it is this new journey. So the other thing too with these two cards is this is a lot of movement, a lot of movement. So allow things to move. And even with the idea of the moon, um, and to the idea of the moon is like it's not showing you the whole road, right? But it is still this idea of trust and faith, which is interesting because Jupiter is in Leo and Jupiter represents faith. Um, to know this is where we're moving to. And I will speak to this for a little bit. So like the idea of not being sure or being scared or the quote unquote darkness, you can see there's a little bit of darkness around here. This is about the way that you see this. The darkness, the void, right? The dark moon, that is when creation happens. And we've been taught that that's scary. We don't need to, we have to know exactly everything that's happening. Um, and when it gets to this idea of darkness and void and creation, that is the idea when we go into that faith in that beautiful heart space, right? And holding the space of knowing what's being creative is in our highest and greatest good. The reason we can't get there is because we've been told when it comes to the darkness, bad things happen in the dark and on and on and on. When honestly, a lot of bad things happen in the daylight. We've been saying that for years on this channel, haven't we? Um, and a lot, and the thing is, a lot of these bad things happen in the daylight and they are quote unquote covered up, right? People conspire to make sure they keep happening, okay? Even though these things are happening behind closed doors, people know they're happening, okay? So this idea of that all this bad stuff happens in the dark really isn't quite true because everyone knows bad things are happening and they're colluding with each other to make sure they keep happening, right? So this is a very long way of going around and saying it is okay. Um, it is okay to understand or have a new understanding, right? Have a new understanding in this new cycle that the dark is magical, that void is magical. Beautiful things can come from the darkness. And I wanted to say this too, which is this was coming through before a couple days ago, honestly, before I started this video, I pulled these cards. If you're thinking about the future or just where you are and you've got a little bit of anxiety, because if you're like me, a lot of times when I think about things, I do go to a negative outcome. I don't know why, I just do, so I've been working with that for my whole life, right? And there could be millions of reasons why, but the reality of it is 9.99999, those outcomes never happen. And I want you guys to be aware of that as well. If you are feeling uncertain or upset, honor that, but also realize there's a million other outcomes that can also happen, and a million other outcomes that are way more positive than maybe the negative outcome you're thinking about. And if you can kind of get yourself back to that net neutral, this could happen, this could happen. Either way, I'm always safe. Either way, what's happening is in my highest and greatest good. Either way, I know that I can navigate myself through this. So let's have the easier outcome. That is going to be more helpful than just fixating on a negative outcome and not noticing what's going on around you. Okay. And I would like to say this idea about, if you've been stuck in like, oh, I don't know what's happening, negative outcomes, getting back into the idea of listening to your intuition, getting back into the idea of maybe going into that full energy of, yeah, but what if it's the best thing that's ever happened to me? Oh wait, actually good things are coming. Um, in learning to move within that energy, because that would also explain um, us coming back into balance, right? Bringing more of this good energy onto the planet because it's been in lowest consciousness for such a long time. Bringing in this idea of levity, bringing in this idea of fun, bringing in this idea of like, okay, we've got to right the ship and notice these good vibes that are coming on the planet. And look, I understand what is going on the planet right now. And there was that terrible earthquake in Colombia. Here in America, our government isn't, well, to some people, isn't 5 stars. Okay, for some of these people, it's 1 star. Would not would not recommend. Um, and knowing that, okay, but if you as an individual can get yourself back to some sort of net neutral, right? If you can get yourself back to some sort of understanding that there are thousands, millions, gajillions different outcomes that can happen, right? And even if you do listen to the psychics and you do listen to whatever, and they're saying, nope, this is going to happen, you don't have to agree with that. You can agree to the lifeline and timeline you want to experience, right? You can agree to this is how I want to show up every day. This is how I want to be for my neighbor. This is how I want to be for my family. This is how I want to be for myself. Because no matter what, this is always going to be a free will planet, and you have your own sovereignty. Okay, so just because it seems like it's going in that direction doesn't mean that that's the direction it has to go in. This is a powerful time. Orion is coming off the horizon, right? These new energies are coming in. Those outer planets have shifted into new houses and new signs. So work with this new energy coming in, but also realize like me, I had to realize why do I always go to straight to like doomsday, right? Which is funny because if you talk to people, they're always like, Jamie, you're so optimistic, you know? Because when I get into the zone and I start to read things, oh yeah, yeah, I can see the different ways. But oof, talking to me, you guys, we've had a lot of what do you call it? We had to do a lot of work on that with myself, right? But I can tell you right now, I am very happy with the way my life is. I am happy where I live. I am content in lots of different places that I've been working on, right? And you can be too. And that doesn't mean like I'm giving up or I'm complacent, but I can tell you, with all the shit that's going on in the world, to feel some sort of content in certain areas is a real win. And you guys can do it too. And I also wanted to speak a little bit to this. So, people that may be on the front end or that are way showers or edge walkers, um, and maybe you guys had a really hard time, right, when this administration first came in. And now you guys are at a place where, well, it still bothers you. It's you took that choice not to let it destroy your life. Okay? That energy is going to be really important as we move through this, especially through this eclipse season and moving on into the rest of the year. So understand that is a really important part. You're part of this idea of keeping us in balance, right? And it's not that you're maybe not, it's not that you're not keeping up with the news, or maybe you don't, you're not into the news that much anymore, which is totally fine. Um, but it is this idea that you already understand where that shift of power is and holding that balance. So it's almost like you guys went through that, got all gaslit, experienced that, metabolized it. So then, as the rest of people kind of catch up to that energy, your energy is already on the other side of it to kind of hold that steady space. So I hope that makes sense to some of you. And that you can keep holding that space. And again, you guys, it is up to you what you engage in. It is up to you again what kind of life you want to live. And it's not about putting your head in the sand, but it's definitely understanding where your attention goes, the energy flows. And if you want to build um, beautiful connections and beautiful community, despite, you definitely can. All right, so what I'm going to do now is pull up the wheel, the astrology wheel, um, and talk about the energies for this dark moon and total solar eclipse. So hold on one sec, and I will pull that up so I can see where to pause my video. Hold on, here we go. All right, here we go. As you guys can see, August 12th. Um, I have it at 12:34, but you can see that the sun and the moon are conjunct. The moon's at 0 minutes. The sun is at 1 minute. And what I want to point out is the formation that's happening. In the last video, we talked about the grand air trine. You can see that still there. But then I want you to notice all of this going on. And what we have is a kite formation. And I wish I could do this better, but from here to here, and then going across, and then the grand air triangle, right? And then that. So I hope you guys can see it. So we have a kite formation. And when kite formations show up, it is about lifting us up. It is about raising us. So yes, it is about raising our consciousness. And you guys right now, I can't, like every day, am I like, is this a new low? I'm surprised. I try not to watch the news as much because it is such a shit show. Um, but also like, uh, it is Leo season, and I am never shocked about people's egos and how they really want to be proven that they're right, and dragging shit up that is really not affecting anyone anymore instead of focusing on what is happening right in front of their faces in order, to, get that taken care of. They'd rather bring stuff up from years ago. It's very, I mean, it is what it is, I guess, but also we don't have to keep it going that way. We can decide what it is that we want to focus on and what we want to work on and what we want to move forward. Um, and we can also maybe say it was what it was, right? So we're still having this beautiful grand air trine, which we're not going to be able to use this pen but we have a beautiful grand air trine. Um, between Pluto, Mercury, and Venus, and then also Juno. So here's Pluto, and then here's Juno. Juno is also trining Uranus, and Venus is trining Pluto right there. So I'm adding Juno in this. And then Sedna, who is in Gemini, is trining Venus, Pluto, um, and Juno, right, who are down here. And so, working with this grand air trine, it is bringing in these new ideas, right? Bringing in this different way of speaking, this different way of thinking, different ways of communicating, right? But it's also really interesting. Um, Mercury's in Leo, so you're going to be that lower Leo is a lot of hot air, right? People talking about how great they are and they're doing all these things, and which isn't there. But it's opposite Pluto that's in Aquarius, right? And Pluto is here to transform, right? Pluto is here to transmute. Um, and it's also Jupiter, right? Getting bigger, expansion, in the beautiful way that it can expand and bring in luck and gifts and faith, right? But in that lower Leo of just more for more sake, being bloated, I'm the best, overconsumption, right? For sure. But again, it's being anchored by Pluto. So Pluto is also going to transform that. So what's interesting too is that this is what I wanted to bring up. Um, Up here, this is all happening in Leo is in the 10th house, right? And this is what the 10th house represents, okay? It is the midheaven. It is the house of career. And when this house is successfully navigated, it's self-expressive, a personally satisfying status in the community, sense of fulfilling one's destiny. Okay, when this house is unsuccessfully navigated, it is entrapment in a meaningless, alienating social role, obsession with power, status, and appearances. So that's really being on display right now, especially in the United States, especially with, these the wealth, the AI, guys, I don't like this administration. So the president, just this obsession with power and status and appearances and meta and all these guys like we gotta look like super cool, not navigating the 10th house successfully, not navigating it successfully. And this eclipse, I think, is totally, because it's opposite Pluto here, is going to bring this to our attention, but also help transmute that, okay? Because Pluto in Juno, right, where Aquarius is in the third house. And what the third house represents is the house of communication. Clear, accurate, unbiased perceptions, willingness to tolerate perceptual ambiguity and uncertainty, right? So again, don't be worried about what you can't see, but maybe what you can feel in a good way. Capacity to probe the world for more information, either verbally or intellectually. Probe the world intellectually, right? For more information. Okay, the third house unsuccessfully navigated. The urge to protect a given concept of the world, leading to defensiveness, intellectualism, and verbal overkill. Scattered, unfocused curiosity leading to chronic time wasting and disorganization. Yeah, to me, that kind of sums up our current government, and a lot of people online that just do discourse for no reason. And it's really important for us to start realizing that, right? It's really important for us to start transforming that, transmuting that, okay, and getting back into being intellectual, asking more questions. I'm not going to get too far. I think that the houses speak for themselves, but understanding, um, right? This, these, the 10th and third house, this being opposite, part of this kite formation, part of this grand trine of air, bringing in the ways that we speak, the ways that we communicate, how we think. We need to rise above the lower, unsuccessful navigated, like the idea of just power and status. And if you got to stay there, you're going to make up a bunch of lies in order to keep you there, right? You don't want people to be smart. You don't want people to look around the world and be like, well, how are they doing it over there? Is it working better? No. And this is, to me, kind of what we're trying to move out of, right? And we can move out of it, right? Because we're in this age of Aquarius, which is about this individual and then the collective and communities and rising above this. So I really want you guys to, even if you want to maybe do a little deeper dive into the 10th house and third house and what these things represent, because and then and how we're going to rise above those lower vibrations of it. Sedna and Uranus are in Gemini, which is in the seventh house. So let's read about the seventh house. The seventh house is the house of relationships. Successfully navigated relationships characterized by equality in partners, open-endedness, i.e., flow. The relationship survives changes and circumstances, a unique rapport, seeing the relationship as a gift. Unsuccessfully navigated a pattern of chronic submissiveness or directiveness in intimate relationships, inability to form a stable emotional bond, fear of intimacy, extreme dependency, or extreme fear of dependency. Gugh, that's what we're moving out of, right? That that unsuccessfully navigated the seventh house. So again, Uranus is in there, right? Churning this up. Sedna, who's been Sedna, I'm not saying who's trapped in there. Sedna is in there also. She is complete transformation. She is also in this seventh house, right? Transforming it completely so that it doesn't look the same ever again, which is good because we have to get out of this idea of submissiveness, directiveness, in intimate relationships, inability to form stable emotional bonds, fear of intimacy, extreme dependency, or extreme fear of dependency. We need to move into equality in partners, open-endedness, seeing the relationship as a gift, right? And that is moving out of that patriarchal norm of might is right. And so it's even written in the stars, you guys. I know you probably get annoyed of me saying things like, um, the rebalancing of masculine and feminine energies, but that's where we are in order to move forward. And then Venus over here, bink, Venus over here, um, she's in the 12th house, correct? She's outside of the 11th house. And so the 12th house, house of karma, um, successfully navigated, successfully navigated. Um, Self-transcendence, spiritual and psychic experiences. Let's go back to the moon, right? Which you can't see. But that's part of that. Higher levels of consciousness, meditation, and ego death, which is a beautiful thing to be happening as we're in Leo season, because Leo rules the ego. Unsuccessfully navigated. Illusion, confusion, uncertain self-image, escapism, abusive self-destructive relationships with alcohol, food, sleep, sex, TV, etc. Hypersensitivity, mental imbalance, schizophrenia, and chronic bad luck. So, Venus knows who she is. Venus knows her self-worth. Venus knows she represents that feminine energy, which would go into this idea of um, spiritual um, spiritual self-transcendence. What am I trying to say? Not meditation. Um, shoot. The word it's escaping me, but we were talking about it when we were talking about the moon. For some reason, I keep thinking the word maiden. That's not it. But working with the moon and working with your I know you guys are screaming at me on the other side, but working with your what am I thinking of? Senses, the those feminine energies, right? Not necessarily not meditation, but working with your intuition is what I'm trying to say. Working with your intuition, right? And so she's working with this in the 12th house, right? And again, this kite there is to get us into these higher energies of these houses, the higher energy of the third house, the higher energy of the seventh house, the higher energy of the 10th house, the higher energy of the 12th house. This eclipse is showing us maybe those lower energies of those places and being able to get us there. And what was really interesting was that I was asking, so Sedna, right? Shit, who's over here, is trining Venus, Pluto, and Juno. And Juno, rules relationships. Venus is the divine feminine. Um, Pluto, the underworld and transformation. And so I was like, what does that mean? Um, and so I had to pull some cards on it. And so it was kind of cute what came out. And actually, hold on, let me pause this so I can take this off so you guys can see the cards because they're not going to come up. So 1 second. And so I pulled 3 cards on this. Like I was saying, because Sedna is trining Venus, Pluto, and Juno. And remember, Juno is all about time and relationships. And the first card that came out, and honestly, I would say probably this card is for the whole reading, but like it was the Nine of Wands, and this is talking about anxiety and worry, and this is saying don't worry about it. You know, it is important to be present and to live your life. The energy of the Nine of Wands is always thinking, yeah, but what if? What if? And the what ifs never happen. And instead, what you do is waste your time um, with the what ifs instead of living your life. Okay, so overall, um, don't worry about it, right? And then what came out was the Three of Swords, which is uh, what we're getting out of, you know, that re those relationships that aren't where you're not allowed to be yourself, right? Submissiveness, dependency, not able to show up for yourself, right? And so this is telling me we're getting out of that energy. And how we do it is just that it's here, right? We just have to accept that it's here and then understand that um, if we focus towards that and what we want to, that higher energy, it will move forward because the last card was the Knight of Wands, which again is this beautiful homage to Leo season and what is happening at this dark moon of Leo. The Knight of Wands, I see all knights as loyal. Knights want justice. Again, the Knight Wands, he moves quickly. He knows his purpose. He's inspired to do it, or they are inspired to do it. They are passionate about it. Um, you can see he's very proud of what he's doing. He with his little duck there. You can see the look on his face. Um, and he knows his purpose, right, in this lifetime. And so that beautiful night energy is here to move us forward, to keep us protected, right, to understand the mission, to get us there as quickly as possible, as long as we decide that's the way we want to go. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. Kind of a long video, but I hope you guys like to hang out a little bit. I hope you guys learned some things. Look into the different houses. Sometimes things are so magical, then other times to me they're like so cut and dry, right? Because it's right there. So we are in this big time of change. We are in this big time of big energies coming in. Allow the magic to happen. We don't know how it's going to happen, so allow it to imagine. Know that you have free will, know that you have your own agency over yourself. You get to decide your timeline. You get to decide what you experience, right? And do that with fun, right? We've got about 10 more days of Leo season, so let's have a good time, right? Let's bask in this heart energy and this fire, this desire to move us together, but also the desire to move yourself into this higher consciousness, into this higher way of being. Okay, friends, I'm going to leave it there. If you have any questions, please reach out. You can leave stuff here on YouTube or see me over on Instagram, and then always at my website. Okay, until then, you guys have a great eclipse.